It's 2025. It's 30 years since I became a professional musician. 30 years since I turned full-time as a bass player. So what would I tell myself 30 years ago with 30 years of hindsight? Here's the 5 pieces of advice I'd give myself if I could turn the clock back 30 years. Check it out. So I was 23 in 1995. I completed my degree and then joined the world of music. Became a full-time musician, full-time professional bass player. I've done over 4,500 gigs. I've been all around the world, met many people, worked for some names. I've done a lot of work. But when I look back, this year being the 30th anniversary of turning pro, there's a whole load of things that if I could go back and talk to my younger self, would probably make that journey a whole lot easier. So hopefully, if you're a musician or looking to take up a full-time career doing this, you might find some of these words of advice handy. Number 1, network like crazy. If you want to be a full-time musician, people need to know you're out there. People need to be aware that you can do the job. When I first turned professional, I didn't have a car. I didn't know lots of people in the business, although I'd been playing for 8 years. I'd been back up in London for 4. But when I turned professional in 95, I fell into a 70s glam rock tribute band that at the time had been very busy for a couple of years, and I kind of fell into their gigging schedule, and it was all good, and we had some great gigs, did a lot of travelling, played all over the place. But I caught that band as things started to change, so band members were leaving, gigs were slowing up a bit, and also the subject matter, the genre we were covering was starting to fall out of favour a bit. So that made things a little difficult. So by this time we're in the mid-90s, heading towards sort of 97, 98. I started doing more and more depping to increase my workload. But looking back, what I should have done was gone out to a lot of the covers venues, covers gigs, pubs and clubs on the London covers circuit and made my availability known to the bands that were out there doing it, and also to the bass players. Very difficult as a bass player. You're not going to cross paths with too many bass players on gigs, because generally you're the only bass player on the gig. So unless there's a bass player in the audience, or you're on a festival show or a university show where there's multiple bands, you're not going to cross paths. So back then in the 95, 96, we didn't really have internet, but I didn't have it at home until about 1999. So things weren't as simple as they are now in 2025 with social media. You can contact someone literally at the press of a button. It wasn't as simple then, and I didn't have a mobile phone either. They were available, but they were expensive, weren't all that reliable. I didn't get my first mobile phone till 1999. But that's just the way it was. So really all you had was landline telephones and the joys of the answer phone. So if someone tried to contact you for a gig or a booking, if you weren't at home, it was going to the answer phone. Now I can contact pretty much any musician who's on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want. I can do it relatively quickly and with ease. Whether they reply or not is another matter. But back then, really what I should have done was gone out to all the covers venues where all the covers bands were playing and made myself known. But I didn't. And it took a while to build up that networking. And the networking is what opened up all the gigs that then came my way, especially as a dep. And again, that was only through being on a gig with another band. Bass player saw me, thought I'd be good as a stand-in for him on some of the shows he was doing. And we took it from there, and that's kind of what happened. So my advice to you is, whether you're a bass player or a musician generally, network like mad. Put your best foot forward, sell yourself, don't oversell yourself. Don't promise things you can't deliver. But if you can do the job, you're reliable, you're on time, and you put in your groundwork and your practice, and you learn what you have to learn, you'll go far. Number 2, I always knew being able to sing and offer some backing vocals would be useful. What I didn't know was that I really should have started learning it as a younger kid. So by the time I turned professional in 1995 at the age of 23, obviously my voice had changed from when I was a kid. And I thought I could do BVs and I can sing along and that's all fine. I didn't know the artistry and the technicality of harmonising and singing harmony parts with other singers. I hadn't learnt that. I hadn't learnt how to do it, or how you fit in around other melodies and harmonies. Looking back, I had no family input into any of this. I had no mentor, I had no one showing me the ropes. I was learning all of this on the fly. And really what I would have benefited from was someone that could have taught me how melody and harmony links up and how it interweaves, because that would have made me more employable from the moment I started my career in music. I learnt it over time, I practiced it, I worked on it. It makes you more employable, simple as that. And I wish I had a better lead singing voice than I've got. I can do BVs, I can do harmonies, I can do some lead stuff, but I don't have a great range. I don't have a great mid-range in my voice. I have great top and bottom, but not great mid-range. So it's something I have to work on. As I get older, my voice is changing, of course, as any vocalist will tell you. It gets harder as you get older and your voice will naturally drop. But if someone could have told me the importance of learning how to sing harmony lines, that would have really helped, especially in the early days. But it's something you can develop, it's something you can practice. There's no shortcuts, you've got to put in the work. But again, if you do it and you do it well, it makes you more employable. It can make or break auditions. If you go into an audition as a bass player and you can offer backing vocals and even lead vocals, it makes you far more employable. So my advice to you, especially if you're younger and you're about to embark on a career in music, learn harmony, especially when it comes to singing. If you think you don't have a good singing voice, work on it. It's something you can develop. It's not out of the realms of possibility. I was rather lucky that for 17 years of my career I worked with a gentleman by the name of Steve Overland, who'll be known to some of you out there, especially here in the UK, as a lead vocalist for FM, the British melodic rock band. I worked with him in a covers band for 17 years. And very early on in that band's career, we were sat by a pool in Bahrain in the Middle East, and we were talking about music and what have you. And I said to him, how do I learn to harmonise? How do I learn to do effective backing vocals? How do I add that into a band? And his advice still rings true to this day. Listen up, folks. This is a golden nugget. He said to me, buy the back catalogue of the Eagles. Everything you need as a male musician vocally is there. Everything you need to be able to harmonise, you can hear in those tracks. You can hear the backing vocals. You can hear the multi-layered harmonies. Just buy the Eagles back catalogue, even if that's the first port of call. Buy the Eagles back catalogue of albums, and you too can sing harmonised backing vocals. That's how it works. And he was right. And I did buy that back catalogue of albums, and it served me very well. Thank you, Don Henley. Thank you, Glenn Fry. So this is point number 3. This is specifically for the bass players out there, not just the musicians, but the bass players. This is one for you. When I started out in 1995, no one mentioned to me swing bands, jazz bands. I wasn't a fan of jazz, really. I'm a fan of Stanley Clarke, Jaco Pastorius, Marcus Miller, that kind of jazz, but not jazz standards as they are, not swing bands. That's not really my thing, never was, still isn't really. However, round about the tail end of 1998 through 1999, Robbie Williams made swing cool. He released a swing album, and it suddenly launched, relaunched, reinvigorated the whole swing band thing. Suddenly there were swing bands popping up all over the UK. Suddenly phones were ringing for swing bands as opposed to electric covers bands. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because up until 10 years ago, so say 2015, probably across the first 20 years of my professional career, I probably missed out on 3 gigging opportunities because I didn't play double bass or upright bass. It never really was on my radar. I wasn't getting those sort of phone calls. However, in the last 10 years, a lot of the function work here in the UK, and probably I would imagine some of this abroad as well, has relied or required on bass players to be able to play electric and upright on the same gig, which is no mean feat. It's not a skill I have. I've never ventured into the world of upright or double bass. It's not something I've had to do, and I've very much gone down the route of, if there's money on the table and there's a job there in the offing and it needs me to buy something or learn a new skill, then I'll do it. However, that's never been put on the table directly in front of me. But looking back, had I ventured into that world and bought an upright bass and learnt it, I would now probably be enjoying a lot more work than I currently am. It's not a big deal, I have plenty of work, but I closed myself off to that type of work. It was my own decision, and for a long period I was exceptionally busy doing gigs all over the country, 4, 5, 6 gigs a week sometimes, even though I didn't do upright and double bass. But if I could wind that clock back, I'd be saying to the 23-year-old Mike Brooks, get your ears around playing double bass, upright bass, learn those skills, get some lessons and have it in your armory. It's never a bad thing. You can never have enough skills. And to bookend that, I would also say, Mike, get your bass reading skills up to scratch. I've never learnt theory properly. I've never learnt it in a structured way. It's possibly a regret. I could still do it. But the question I ask myself now, at the age of 52, is, are there going to be a lot of work opportunities for me if I did it? Would the work and the income justify the amount of time and expenditure to go and do that and fit it in with normal life? That's the question. If I'd done it when I was younger, of course it would. Daft question. But anyway, point number 3. Get double bass and upright bass under your fingers. This is point number 4. And I've only learnt this over time. I've only learnt this through experience. Doing gigs, playing in multiple bands, working with lots of musicians, and the people you work with on gigs, the people in your vicinity, the people that get the job done. I wish I'd known this when I was 23, as I came out of doing a degree for 4 years into the big wide world of music. Not everyone will like you. You will not be everyone's cup of tea. You're going to come up against people who, for one reason or another, you just don't click. You're not going to work well together. It's going to be not a war of attrition, but it's going to be a case of getting the job done and leaving it at that. It's not a bad thing. When I was younger, I wanted to be, well, we all do as we're younger, we want to be popular, we want to be the person that people invite to play on gigs, we want to be the #1 call, we want to be Mr. Superdet or Mrs. Superdet, Miss Superdet even. That's just natural. But you're going to come up against musicians, people in the industry who you just don't click with. It's just the way it is. It's not a bad thing. At the time, it doesn't feel like a particularly good thing either. But it's just the way it is. It's just life. And there are some people that you will instantly click with, form great relationships with, working relationships that can last years, decades. I know there are still people that I work with now who I've been working with since I started doing this. Some people even go back to the very point that I picked up a bass guitar. However, the people that you don't work with, don't worry about it. Don't sweat about it. Don't sit there and stress about it. It can eat away at you, but if I could give myself the advice and go back 30 years, I'd say don't worry about it. Just get the job done, put a smile on your face, and you haven't got to be that person. If they've got problems, issues, stresses, you might not even know about those. They might be the way they are with you because of those things in their life. Don't worry about it. Just be grateful that you can make a living from music. They may change over time, they may not. Don't worry about it, just do your thing. But if you don't get on with someone, don't make it a problem. Just let it go. It's not your problem. It really isn't. And they're probably like this with other people as well. And then we get to the 5th point. What would I tell myself 30 years ago? Well, this job has afforded me quite a fabulous life. There have been some stresses and strains. There have been periods of inactivity, periods where the money wasn't coming in as much as I'd like, periods where I was working extremely hard and not really getting the financial recompense that I would have liked. But hey, it all added to the total. So here I am in the early part of 2025. I've done over 4,500 gigs. Life's pretty good. I had for 18 years a writing career with Bass Guitar Magazine and Bass Player Magazine. I got to meet many of my heroes, some of whom I now call friends, some of whom I communicate with on a fairly regular basis. I've had more gear in my hands to test and review and demo than I could ever have imagined. So the ride's been pretty good. But if I could tell myself back when I was 23, one thing: enjoy yourself, enjoy the ride, don't stress about the small stuff. The small things are exactly that, small things. And in recent years, and very recently, I've lost musical colleagues, musical friends at young ages for a variety of reasons. Enjoy it. You don't know when it's going to finish. You don't know how long you've got your health. Who knows what's around the corner? But do enjoy the ride. When you're doing gigs abroad, you're in nice places, you're being looked after, enjoy it, lap it up. Enjoy every moment. Take photos, take videos. If you have a YouTube channel, get those experiences out there. I recently lost a friend who had so much experience in the world of bass, so much knowledge. He knew things that even the manufacturers of instruments didn't know about their own basses. We have no record of what he knew. He didn't write a book, he didn't jot anything down. All we've got is his Facebook page and videos that are up there. If you've got knowledge on bass, music, whatever, document it. If you can upload it, do it. Share it with the world. You don't know when your time's going to be up. I'm annoyed that we don't have my friend's knowledge to call in on. Lord knows I used him as the font of bass knowledge on many occasions. So, like I say, if you're starting out as a young musician, don't stress the small stuff. At the time it will seem exceptionally annoying. People will seriously get on your wick, and sometimes you're just trying to dot the I's and cross the T's and make sure every gig is perfect, every recording session is perfect. That's all cool, and working hard is a good virtue. But if something happens and it's not to your liking, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. So there we go. I hope some of that advice might ring true for you. There's probably another 100 points I could go through. Maybe there'll be for other videos, who knows. But it's 2025. It's 30 years I've been doing this. I'm thoroughly enjoying my playing at the moment. I'm thoroughly enjoying all the bands I'm playing with. It's great. We got through COVID 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Can't believe how quickly it's gone. But if you're out there earning a living from music, being a self-employed musician, being freelance, working in bands, doing sessions, playing festivals, doing wedding gigs, doing bar gigs, enjoy it. Make the most of it. You don't know when that time will end for you. Have a great time doing it, and if you get paid doing it, even better. You can keep up with me doing my gig vlogs. I've started vlogging on my gigs, so if you want to check some of that out, there's a video right here you can watch, and this is one of my gig vlogs. There's going to be lots of them. Keep watching. Right, I'm off to get a coffee. I'll catch you later. Take it easy.